This is a nothing. Yes, did they play perfect? No, they still win. Yes.
What are you doing if the Celtics win the championship?
If the Celtics win championship, I might break my sobriety. I might act up.
We did it! You got him.
All the way.
Celtics versus Heat. Celtics in what?
4.
Celtics versus Knicks. Celtics in
4.
You got Celtics in 4? Hell yeah.
Use a vocab word from a couple years ago. It's mind-boggling.
That's it, GOG. Let's go. What do you think for tonight?
You think I'm worried about the Warriors? I ain't worried about the
Let's go, baby. 18, baby. Load up the boat.
Why would you say that?
Because
I'm not- no, and-
recently he's
and
putting up
hold on.
games like
above our head for the players.
literally right now.
But I think when Marcus, especially Marcus, when he got traded, I think that was a wake-up call.
You think right now
Rob,
it's still New York?
I do. And when I think of the Celtics dynasty, honestly, one of the first names that comes to my mind is actually Brad Stevens.
That one.
We'll take it.
Interesting. That one
We'll
was
take it.
interesting. We will take that. Are you kidding me? That is much better than losing that game. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. I am your host, Rob Hayes. Hey, joined with me are my three amazing co-hosts. You guys know them, Nick Franco, Justin Lowe, and Seamus Arlingo, guys. The Celtics tonight, well, they managed to put together a 26-point comeback on the road in Philadelphia. The Sixers obviously playing without Joel Embiid and Paul George, who were out due to injuries. On the Celtics side of things, they had obviously no Peyton Pritchard tonight. However, Boston was still able to walk away with the win tonight, guys. 118-110 was our final score. Obviously, like I said earlier, trailing by as many as 26 points. It was ugly to start this game, really 3.5 quarters in this game, or 2.5 quarters through this game, until eventually Boston was able to string together a run and come back and, get the win. So, our initial thoughts, reactions, takeaways on tonight's comeback win.
These types of games scare me the most when I see guys like Joel Embiid and Paul George out, because when you get guys like Yabusele, obviously Council the fourth in there, and Tyrese Maxey was a rising star in this league. You see those guys out. That gives these guys a chance to step up big in roles that they're not normally playing when Paul George and Joel Embiid are in the lineup. So it's almost like we have nothing to lose. We have everything to gain out of this. And that's how they were playing in that first half. And the Celtics did not look great tonight to start this game whatsoever. The first, 3.5 quarters, they looked really, really off. Offensively, they were stagnant, and even when they were getting good looks, they weren't knocking them down. I thought, Philadelphia is historically horrendous at guarding the 2-point shot, and the Celtics did not do a lot of 2-point shooting in that first half tonight. So when they heavily relied on the three, it wasn't falling, really affecting their defense. Defensively, the Celtics looked horrendous tonight to start this game off. Also have to give credit to Philly, though, for hitting some tough shots over Kristaps early on. But in the end, Celtics coming out with a huge win. Yes, a huge win, despite having to make a 26-point comeback. Probably should not have been down by 26 in the first place. This is still a really solid win for the Celtics team. And as we mentioned in the post-game shows previous to this one, wins right now doesn't mean, we're for sure going back to back, but it's definitely trending in a better position. Tonight, Jason Tatum was spectacular, guys, in this game. In this second half, Jason Tatum always shows up against Philadelphia 76ers. He did that tonight. His running mate, Jaylen Brown, as well. And then obviously we got guys like Kristaps Porzingis and Derek White, who we're going to talk about later on in this episode. But this turned out to be one of our worst games, yet one of our most, as GRD said, one of our most memorable games so far this season. So glad the Celtics got the win. Now their third straight win, which hasn't been done since late December, early January. So this is very unfamiliar territory for the Boston Celtics right now.
I know we have fresh content to talk about this time. We're not just on rinse and repeat. It could have been just replaying episodes, and people wouldn't even know the difference if over the past couple of
Literally,
months because
literally.
there was just so many things that we were so used to, and we were expecting to be going into this game after watching the Philadelphia 76ers first half. They were playing their asses off during the first
Yeah.
half, killing us on the transition. It was something that the Celtics didn't really even seem like they signed up for going into that game. And at halftime, you saw the transition over. The Celtics started to play active on the defensive side, led by their two stars, Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown, who really put it together going into the second half. There wasn't a single player on the 76ers roster on the court tonight or even on the bench that could have guarded Jason Tatum or Jalen Brown tonight. And they took full effect or full advantage of that. And you noticed during the fourth quarter, you were seeing players like Derek White, Sam Hauser, and
No way.
Some
That might be
things
the
just never
earliest one.
change, folks.
That might be the
Some
earliest
things
one we've
just never
gotten.
change.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna hold it until I'm done with this take. But you saw Sam Hauser, Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis be able to get open looks and really seal out tonight's game, which I feel like is something that really helps this team transition in confidence. This is what the team's been looking for, and we have the fall count already going.
Yeah, number one on the night. But another streak and another count we have going is wins in a row for the Boston Celtics. This is becoming a monthly occurrence at the beginning of each month now. The Boston Celtics win 3 games in a row for the first time since December 31st to January 3rd. And before that 3 game winning streak, of course, we go back to December 2nd, all the way to December 6th. Now, we of course pull off yet another 3 game winning streak from January 29th to February 2nd. So the Celtics, at the beginning of each month, something just arises within the Boston Celtics to go, you know what? Maybe we should win 3 straight games. Maybe we can just do that after we did it all last season. And for some reason, in the month of January, the month of December, the team just couldn't do it at all. Yet tonight, it didn't look like this was going to be the third game of the Celtics, or the third win rather, within their current 3 game winning streak, because the Celtics, they were down 26 points in this game, as you guys mentioned, at one point in time. And this was just a classic Celtics performance in the first half and even the third quarter. It looked like as if, oh, yep, Celtics, they don't show up to play. They're fumbling the details all over the place. They're not getting after it defensively. The offense looks like it's just running through the motions. Meanwhile, the team in which the Celtics are facing, which was the Sixers tonight, they look like they have all the energy in the world. And Justin, you already mentioned it. They're playing for nothing essentially right now with Paul George and Joel Embiid out of the lineup. And all of these players, you got to remember too, a lot of the players out there on the court for the Sixers tonight, not exactly all paid. Yes, Tyrese Maxey, who had himself quite a night, he's paid and he's given his due, of course. But the rest of the team, well, they haven't secured multiple contracts in the NBA yet, or rather, they want to secure more as they go down further into the future. And that's what makes these games so tricky for the Boston Celtics, is because the Boston Celtics, coming off a title last year, I mentioned it in multiple games prior, where does the Celtics find their motivation? Where does it really come from against these type of teams, when these type of teams, they essentially have nothing to play for besides, I mean, come on, they're playing for the play-in at this point in time. The Sixers, after this loss tonight, 10 games under 500. A lot of the players out there for the Sixers are playing for another contract in the NBA. Even Tyrese Maxey, you could say he secured his money, but he's also going to get paid further on into the future. Wants to make all-star teams, all NBA teams. He has motivation out there as well. But it really looked like from this game tonight, it was a repeat of what we saw against the Kings earlier this season, against the Raptors earlier in January, and really the Lakers as well. The Lakers out there, this was going to be one of those nights where it looked like it was going to be one of those nights where we came in here and just bashed on the team and went, well, nothing has changed. But really, over the last couple games, I would say things have changed for the Boston Celtics. And Rob, you and I talked about it last game, how some of the individual performances on the Celtics are starting that uptick a little bit. We see Derek White, we're going to mention him later. He's been playing well as of late. Drew Holiday didn't play particularly well at the start of this game, but at the end of the game, he played well. Jason Tatum, he was phenomenal tonight. This was 1000% an MVP resume builder for Jason Tatum in this game tonight against the Philadelphia 76ers, specifically in that fourth quarter. And there just does seem to be a little bit different of a tone and an energy coming out of the Celtics team, because I think mid-January, early January, late December, we wouldn't have seen a comeback out of the Celtics in this game whatsoever. And they just chipped away in that third quarter. Of course, scored 36 points in that third quarter. And then the avalanche just fell in the fourth quarter for the Boston Celtics, outscoring the Philadelphia 76ers 38-16. And that's when the Celtics were getting after it on both ends of the floor, offensively and defensively. And really the offensive end, you look at the second half, the Celtics went, my goodness, Franco. You got to get some cardboard boxes, man. You got to get some cardboard boxes. I'm telling you, the 2022 special, the 21 special. You just got to get those cardboard boxes, put them like this, stick the phone right there.
We're 10 minutes in.
We don't need all this. We don't need all this sticky stuff out there. No more sticky stuff, okay? We've seen a lot of sticky stuff out of the in the past with Franco and the Celtics, of course. No laughs out of that one, okay. But anyway, but the Boston Celtics, that fourth quarter offensively, really it was a masterpiece, I want to say, because the entire time Jason Tatum was carving up the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Sixers were trying to double Tatum. We saw that in the Bulls game as well, and that's why Kristaps Porzingis, this is what makes the Celtics so good, is that you have an MVP candidate in Jason Tatum, who defenses are hounding on any given night. And if Jason Tatum, number one, if he's carving up that defense, that's great in itself, but even more so, if he is playmaking for others, you saw how many, and down the stretch, look how many open threes the Boston Celtics were able to make for, or rather Jason Tatum was able to create, and the Boston Celtics were able to create, whether it was Derek White, Drew Holiday. We saw it in the Chicago Bulls game. It's why Kristaps Porzingis had 34 points that night. Everybody was focusing in on Jason Tatum, and Jason Tatum was going, I can either take you to the rim, I can pull up and shoot a three over your face, I can go to my mid-range, or I can make the extra pass, I can make the proper pass, the right decision, and I'm going to find the open man, whether that's Porzingis, whether that's Holiday, whether that's White, could be Jaylen Brown as well. And all of those guys, when they're wide open, that's when the Celtics offense and really the entire Celtics team, they're hitting shots at a dominant clip. And we've been talking about this in December and in January. Get rid of the one dribble shots. Get rid of the one pass shots. Go downhill, go towards the rim, make the right decision, make that pass out, swing it around the perimeter, find those open shots. That's what the Celtics were doing late in this game. It's what they did against the Chicago Bulls the other night as well. And against the Pelicans, we saw it quite a bit in New Orleans. So the Celtics, I think they are starting to give us a little bit of a different showing here. They're a little bit of a different performance than what we've seen out of them as of late, but we do want to see it continuously go into the future and not really go away for long stretches like we saw in the first half of this game. We want to see what happened in the second half more consistently. The bright thing is, the bright side of this, and really the silver lining for the Boston Celtics, is the fact we did see it in the second half, and it resulted in an 8-point win. Looking at the score on the bottom of the on the screen here, nobody would have guessed the Boston Celtics were down 26 points in this game and committed a 34-point turnaround. Yet that's what happened. And that's really what the tone of the team was earlier this season. When the team went down big, they were never out of a game because they always knew their identity in terms of coming back, creating those open shots, hitting them, and getting after it defensively. That's what we saw in the second half tonight, and that's what we need to see out of the Celtics moving forward. Not what we saw in the first half, in which I'm sure we'll talk about more as the show goes on.
Yeah, I think that they made their open looks in the second half, and it is really, really tough to beat the Celtics when they're generating open looks and they're hitting their open looks. I thought, I mean, honestly, if I'm a Philadelphia 76ers fan,
Whoa, breaking news. Oh, no, there's no trade. You just said you were a Philadelphia 76ers fan? That was big.
If trade season, you can't do that, Seamus. You can't do that.
Yeah, I was like, what? No, I'm saying if I was a Philadelphia 76ers fan, I would hate Jason Tatum with my entire heart.
Honestly, not as much as I'd hate Joel Embiid with my entire heart.
I don't know, because Tatum, I mean, again, just another monster performance in Philadelphia. I was very impressed with Brown. Derek White is finally starting to look much more
Yeah.
relaxed. Seamus, we talked about that. His game is slowed down. It just looks like he's almost just taken like a big deep breath and is really just playing more relaxed now, which is a great sign for Celtics fans. And then I thought Hauser was kind of like the unsung hero off the bench tonight because you didn't really get anything off the bench. And I think that he kind of was, you really only, with this team, you really only need one guy to kind of give you something off the bench at night. And Hauser was that guy. So again, I mean, anytime you can get a win right now for Boston, it's a great sign. 6-2 now, guys, in the last 8 games. If you want to back it up even more, I believe we're 7-3 in the last 10 now. So, I mean, definitely some positives to get going here as we move forward.
So here's what I want to say about like this recent stretch the Celtics have had, winning 7 of the last 10 games, winning the last 3 in a row. It's everybody's saying, oh, Joel Embiid was out, or oh, the Celtics only won by 1 point or 3 points. Sometimes it's not about, at least for me, in my opinion, sometimes it's not about the margins of victory, whether it's by 1 or 30. Sometimes it's more of about how they play.
You get the win. Right.
Well, sometimes it's more about how they play. It's like, well, how did they get the win? Whether it was by 1 or it was by 30, like, how did they get the win? This is why they got the win tonight. Really impressive win. Yes, no Joel Embiid, no Paul George, which to me is not an excuse for this Philly team because there's no excuse to blow a 26-point lead, no matter who you have. You were up 26. And also, they've been without Joel Embiid and Paul George a majority of this season. They have really not been there. They're 2 max contract players. Paul George might have fleeced the Sixers more than Al Horford. I mean, this is it's definitely up there. But anytime you can go out, like you said, Rob, and get a win, but also get a win like this. This is a little bit more eyebrow lifting if the Celtics go into Philly down by 26 and Ian wanted to throw the starters in the throw in the main Celtics in the third quarter. You throw the white flag in the third quarter, like you did against Milwaukee last year on national TV, then it's like, oh, wow. Like, wow, this is where we're at. Even though it's pre-All-Star break, this is kind of where we're at. But no, the Celtics didn't lay down. Sam Hauser came in, drilled some threes late in that third quarter, which really, I think, lifted Boston. That is huge when you can have a guy off your bench when your bench isn't producing. So, yes, not the cleanest win for the Celtics, but it's how they got this win late in the second half. And fourth quarters, the Celtics, if there's been one thing the Celtics have really struggled with, even in their wins as of late, it's those fourth quarters. And tonight they dominated when it was time to close out this ball game.
Well, we would no doubt about it. And guys, so how about this? So the Celtics, they finished on a 54-20 run in the final 14 minutes and 55 seconds of the game. In that time span, guys, the Celtics shot 20-27 from the floor. That is good for 74.1%. They shot 12-16 from behind the arc, 75%. They had 13 team assists, guys. In that process, the Celtics held Philadelphia to 7 of 23 shooting field goal percentage, 30.4%, and 1 of 9, which is 11.1% from behind the arc, guys. Shout out Justin Turpin on X for those stats. Guys, so when you talk about Boston, and this has been a topic of conversation so much, it feels like, in the past really 2 months since December. It's for these guys, it's tying together both ends of the floor, right? We see stints where offensively they got it going, but defensively they're letting the other team hang around, and vice versa, where their offense is putrid and their defense is kind of keeping them afloat. Tonight, in that last 14 minutes, the Celtics looked like the Celtics, and they made Philadelphia look like Philadelphia. And I think, again, that's kind of what I said about Chicago. It's like awesome, but I want to say this: the aspect of coming back and winning, right? Adds, I think, is way more valuable to this win than if Boston were just to come in here against Philly and beat them by 35. I think the element of coming back, right, storming back, and doing that, I do think is something new and is a good thing to pull. So I don't know about you guys, but that's how I view that.
Yeah, we really have not had a win like this in months. I mean, we've been down. Think about how many times we've been down in the last couple months, December and January. How many times did we come back? Rarely ever.
Yeah.
Rarely ever. And so when you say this is something new, Rob, this is something that I look at and go, okay, when we talked about mid-January against the Raptors after that game, when are the Celtics going to be back? Well, this kind of gives some indication that, okay, if we're down in a game, even if we're down 26, why can't we come back? Why can't we? That's where I see this win as kind of a page turner from where we've been, because I really do believe in mid January, this would have just been a 20-point loss. It would have been a 20-point loss. The team would have rolled over, and that would have been it. And especially in the second half, going down after halftime, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't even pretty after halftime. And usually when that happens for the Boston Celtics, they're done. They're absolutely done. And yet tonight in the fourth quarter, going into the fourth quarter, they chipped away at that lead. It was only 14 going into the fourth quarter, and they're facing highly, highly inferior opponent in the Philadelphia 76ers, who are just terrible against 500 teams or better this year. And the Philadelphia 76ers, without their two best players and constant personnel shifts all over the place, the Celtics, that was their quarter to win. If they could just win that quarter, that fourth quarter, they could have a good chance to win the game. And they did win that fourth quarter substantially, needed to win it by 14, but they not only won it by 14, they won it by what? 14 plus 8. It was 22 points in that fourth quarter. And really, this is something extremely new for the Boston Celtics, because we haven't seen that chip away at the lead, chip away. We've always seen, we go on a nice run here, but then, the Lakers game. Oh, we're going to cut it to 8 against the Lakers. It's 12, and we have 4 free throws to cut it to 8. Oh, we miss all our free throws, and now it's back up to 18, and we're going to lose the game. Against the Toronto Raptors, who went into the fourth quarter, still a very close game. Oh, and then we go down 13. Oh, we go down 16. Oh, that's it. Against the Sacramento Kings, it's tied. We were down earlier in that game. We come back, it's back and forth. It's tied going into the fourth quarter, and then we allow 38 points, and that's it. Tonight, much different story. We're down in this game by a lot in the third quarter, as that lead tracker indicates, and ultimately the Celtics in the fourth quarter just come storming on back. They just stormed back, showed us something completely new, and really showed us something that we've wanted to see out of this team for the past month and a half, which is some motivation, some fight, some fire, that we're not going to take this. We're not going to take this right now. It's 26 points. We're down. We can still come back and win. We're not going to roll over. We've seen too much rolling over in the past month. And now we're starting to see a little bit different of an energy and intensity, a tone out of this team, that they're not just willing to give up. And that's ultimately what I see as, I'm not going to say turning point necessarily for this team.
You said page turner earlier. I like that. That was good. You said page turner. We haven't used that yet. And it's also not banned by Franco.
Synonyms. So yeah, we got to look at the Franco.gov, the banned lists of Franco's sayings. But for real, the Celtics, in terms of turning a page, turning the corner, not using turning point. That's not a thing here on Celtics Talk Weekly anymore. But the Celtics, they are showing signs right now that, okay, maybe the rest of the season isn't going to just go like December and January went. It's not going to be like that the rest of the year. And that's why this team can still go back to back. They're not going to have as great of a record as they had last year. They're not going to go on this dominant run like we saw last season. But at least this Boston Celtics club is still a contender and still very much in the running for a title. And if they really get it going at the right time, because I would say even right now is not exactly the right time we want to see the Celtics get going. It's really at the end of February, into March. That is when we want to see the Celtics really ramp up. But if these are the first little snippets of that, because we do have a long break in the middle of February for All-Star break, this is the first couple of snippets. I think that's potentially a possibility that the Celtics, what they did tonight, I kind of agree with your statement, Rob, that if we just came and blew them out tonight, we'd be kind of coming in here and talking the way we talk against the Chicago Bulls. Yet tonight, there's more praise to be handed out for this team, because they had to battle adversity and battle back in order to win this game. And that's what we have not seen out of the Celtics club at all in the last month lately. And it's mighty impressive that the Celtics, they were down 26 points and able to come back. And this is really the team we know. It's the team last year we saw, and even at the beginning of this year, where they can be down 30, they can be down 26 like they were tonight. They're never out of a game because their talent and their ability, and particularly their decision making, is just more elite than every other ball club in the league. And if you're up by 20, 30 points against the Boston Celtics, you have to play the full game out because the Boston Celtics are coming for you. We didn't see that the last 2 months. We saw it tonight.
Well, it ties the largest comeback win in the NBA this season, guys. So let's take a look at the lead tracker real quick. With that being said, guys, the largest lead, again, 26 points for the Philadelphia 76ers. The lead changed only 4 times there. You can see really with 2 minutes left in that third quarter, is when the tide started to shift. It kind of, Boston kept chipping away there just before halfway through that fourth quarter, where they took that lead and they never looked back, and they were able to hold on to this win. Franco, I feel like I cut you off.
Oh, I was going to say that Scout was saying that today's game was kind of a conservative game because you look ahead at the Celtics schedule for next week only. You got the Cleveland Cavaliers on Tuesday, then you got Dallas on Thursday, which we'll dive into that whole situation later on in the show, but you don't know how they're going to be looking. And then after that, you got my favorite New York Knicks on Saturday. So
You're a Knicks
favorite New York Knicks? What is going on?
Knicks and Sixers fan, Seamus? Are we in the right show?
I don't know.
Hey, we got
anybody else a Lakers fan?
Right,
we
What's
got
going
Pistons
on?
I'm a
up here.
Pistons fan. I'm a Pistons fan, so I guess Seamus, you're
See,
alone.
that's kind of bad. Like all the people who watched the Celtics in the 80s, they're hearing that and they're going, oh no way.
Justin has a
Pistons?
new team every year. There's like a
No,
new
I don't.
team that Justin. Yes, you do. It's like the Celtics. Obviously,
last
your
year was
first team.
last year was the Magic.
Yeah,
I'm
You
still
got,
high
like-
on the Magic.
Now,
They're
see,
just struggling.
You got to go out west. You got to pick a
No.
Western Conference team.
No,
Because the
I
East
go with
teams,
the-
if you
That
like
was-
the
no,
East
that was
teams,
2
they come
years
up
ago.
and they creep up
I
in the
go
standings.
with the young. I go with the young.
2 years ago was
team.
Oklahoma.
It's still Oklahoma, dude. I'm still high on them. And you guys,
But then
bashed
you
me
had
on
a
the OKC
random Warriors streak there, like back a way back in the day. You had a
yeah.
random
did.
Warriors streak.
I had
Before they
I
beat
think-
us in the finals, too.
I think they.
Yeah.
I think it was weird though. I
Yeah.
think that's when they like sucked. Like I don't know. Something about teams sucking and then just automatic, just somehow winning. Like all of a sudden, just like I don't know. It must get me going. But Franco, going back to you real quick. No, because Franco kind of said this earlier, even before the Celtics came back. Like he told us earlier, like this is a game the Celtics need. Like the Celtics need a game like this where they're getting punched in the mouth, they're getting absolutely waxed. And they need to claw and fight their way into it. Franco, speak more upon that thought because I want to give you. I haven't given my official flowers out. Maybe I'll give Franco my kisses. Seamus, have you given your kisses yet?
Oh,
I'll give Franco my kisses because Franco kind of called this earlier. Like the Celtics need a game like this where they get waxed, they get punched in the mouth, and they have to respond to this type of adversity.
yeah, 100%. This was something that I've been calling for probably since the beginning. Don't get me blushing, but I think that this was something I was calling for probably early January when this team was really going through it, really on that win-loss trajectory. Is they need to be able to show that they can respond, and tonight was a perfect example of that. You had the tide really turned when Gershon Yabusele slammed on an open lane and really over-exaggerated on the celebration. You really saw the team lock in after that, and they looked across the court and they realized who they were playing against. They weren't really playing down to the level of the 76ers. The 76ers were playing up. These are always opportunities when you're playing a team who is facing injury. You're playing against role players who are really trying to get more minutes for themselves so they can make more money. This is just really this was probably more of a turning point than anything else I could say. I can use it because I'm the one who banned it, and I'll unban it as well because this is
I forgot Franco runs
these
these
rules.
streets. I forgot Franco.
Integrity.
You just wait until Saturday. Yeah, this is really something that I'm thinking that is really a big response for this team, and especially heading into such a challenging week next week. You're matching up against the number 1 seed, who has kind of had that little stumble that I've been talking about coming up. I knew that the Cleveland Cavaliers might at some point come down to earth because basketball is a game of habits, and that's going to happen no matter what. I knew that was if they can really have this locked in and go into the All-Star break really as a contender for the Eastern Conference or Eastern Conference number 1 seed, that they can get 2 or 3 games back behind the Cavaliers and be away from the New York Knicks, we're looking very confident going into the rest of the season, because then you can have those games that don't feel as necessary as it cuts down to playoffs. You're not really fighting for positioning in March heading into the first round. You're not having games where you worried about resting Al Horford or Kristaps Porzingis. You want to be able to have that sort of comfort, especially heading into those months. So I really think this is the time that the team really needs to turn up the Jets and really solidify themselves as the number 1 team coming out of the East.
Well, and you know what? Where I agree with you there too is like you kind of said it. Tuesday is going to be right against Cleveland, right? Say you go out and you win that, it's going to be a great turning point potentially. I mean, you pick up 4 in a row. You just beat the number 1 seed, and then guys, that would only put you 4.5 games out of first. And I know the 1 seed's not everything, and Cleveland's kind of coming back down to earth, like you said, Franco. Like 4.5 games with, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, another matchup waiting for Cleveland at post All-Star break. Say you win that, that's mind you, beat Cleveland twice is a tough task, but really it's 3.5 games to make up in between there if you can handle business. Justin, I know you're checking me. Am I correct on that?
Well, I'm not checking you to make sure you're to prove you're wrong.
No, I know, but
I don't think we play them again. I'm not seeing them on the schedule, unless Alicia effed up on the schedule. No, I don't think we. I don't think we played them. I don't think we play them again.
Okay, so
yeah, we do the 28th. That's my fault.
Okay, shame on you. It's okay though. Calling out your girlfriend and then being wrong. Girlfriend's always right, Justin.
Look at her.
But no, like if you can make up, you win those 2 games, you're only 3.5 games back you need to make up, right? And that's very within the realm of possibility. So I mean, again, it's Tuesday. I'm with you, Franco, right, on both factors that you said, right? Like much needed win. Right? You woke up, you got punched in the mouth on the road against Philly. Maxi dancing, Yabusele flexing, really like you really down in the dumps, and they came back. Mazzulla said it in his post-game presser. They wanted it. They did everything they needed to do to get the win. So, and then on this, the second factor of, listen, it's been a rough 2-month stretch, and you're still in striking distance of that 1 seed, or at least making up some ground in that 1 seed. So it very, very, very important stretch here. Moving forward against starting really this last handful of games before the All-Star break, but it starts Tuesday. This is really when you ask me if you want to make momentum. This was really the first game to actually make some momentum.
This is becoming an exciting stretch for the Celtics. I mean, look at the schedule right now. First of all, we slaughter the Bulls by 22 points, and that the Bulls they make a perplexing move, of course, tonight. We might get to that later. But the Chicago Bulls, they fall by 22 points to the Boston Celtics. Kristaps Porzingis, that's a part of his slew of awesome games played in a row. He scores 34 points. That's arguably his best game of the entire season, and really the team's one of the better games of the entire team, or the entire season the team played. And then you have the New Orleans Pelicans, who in New Orleans, it wasn't guaranteed. Celtics couldn't put it all together, but at the end, hey, we didn't lose in crunch time. That's amazing. We haven't seen that in a while either. The Celtics, hey, they actually didn't fumble the details down the stretch. Jason Tatum comes up with a huge game winner. Jaylen Brown hits a huge shot in that game as well. Celtics pull out that matchup tonight. 26 points down to the Philadelphia 76ers in Philadelphia. It looks like the Celtics they're just in the midst of humiliation against the Philadelphia 76ers, in which we're really not used to,
On
because
national TV.
things like this happen. This is why we're not used to being humiliated by the Philadelphia 76ers, because they can't get out of their own way in terms of humiliating themselves. Oh, they go by 26 points tonight. They can't hold the lead, and they're the ones walking out of the arena humiliated tonight. It's not the Boston Celtics, it's the Philadelphia 76ers. This book is written time and time again. The chapters are just all the same in the book of the Sixers and the Celtics. It's the Celtics coming out on top every single time. But after this little 3-game winning streak, in which we said literally 4 days ago, this should be a 3-game winning streak. After that Bulls game, okay, we have New Orleans. Okay, New Orleans and Philadelphia. They're terrible against 500 or better teams. They're absolutely horrendous. We should be able to go into their homes and win both of these games. The Celtics do it in not dominant fashion, but they do it in a fashion in which proves to us they're still a team to beat by, number one, down the stretch in New Orleans. They pull out that game. And then tonight, they come back and they still have to play down the stretch and in crunch time and pull that game out. So 2 games in a row where the Celtics don't do it in a pretty manner, in a beautiful manner, yet at the same time they pull out both of these wins in manners in which we're not used to seeing from the last month. And then moving ahead, you guys already mentioned the standings, how the Celtics are still in striking distance of the number 1 seed, but ultimately look at the next 3 games. We've already been talking about this. Cleveland, Dallas, who just made we'll get to that again. I'm pretty sure everybody's heard about that one by now, unless you're living under a rock.
Damn, Maxi Kleber's out of there.
Yeah, and Markieff Morris. I mean, that Markieff Morris, I don't know how you can get rid of him. Can we get Marcus Morris on a team? I mean, with Celtics 15th roster spot, just saying. But anyway, then you go to New York. Those are 3 straight games now, the Celtics.
Yeah.
If they perform in all these games, right? I'm not sitting here expecting an extension of this winning streak and going, 6 straight games. But there's a huge opportunity in front of the Celtics right now. These next 3 games, Cleveland, Dallas, New York. If the Celtics come out and extend their winning streak from tonight and extend their really good play, I'm not even concerned about the winning streak. I'm really concerned about the good play from the Boston Celtics as of late, particularly in crunch time situations. This is a massive opportunity for the Celtics to really regain that confidence and regain confidence that they lost from other people, including ourselves in the month of January, from what they did and how they played for most of the month, going back and forth from wins and losses. But even after that, there's 2 games right before All-Star break, and you face the potentially Jimmy Butlerless Heat after, I'm sure we'll be seeing Kelly Olynyk in that game after the Miami Heat trade Jimmy Butler to the Toronto Raptors. That would just be the most hilarious transaction of all time, and I'm kind of banking on it at this point. Like, let's get Jimmy to a bottom feeder team. Can we do that? I don't know. I don't want to. I'm not saying I don't want to see him on a contender, but seeing him on the Raptors, that would just be hilarious.
Ship him off.
But Washington, the Raptors. I mean, hey, the Chicago Bulls at this point, reunion. Would love to see that. But anyway, I will say, Jimmy, it would be better to see him on a team like the Warriors. I will.
Grizzlies.
But regardless, my whole point here, you have the Miami Heat post-trade deadline. We really have no idea what the Miami Heat are going to look like for that game. But then you have the San Antonio Spurs on the schedule.
That
who now,
matchup,
of course, have
lot more
Wemby.
fun.
That matchup against Wemby is always fun. Celtics played him twice last year. It's always fun against Wemby. But now, De'Aaron Fox potentially going to be playing in that game for the San Antonio Spurs as well. And that's the last game before All-Star break. So the next 5 games going into All-Star break, I know Robbie said, they're probably not going to turn it up and turn it on until after All-Star break. But there's still a massive opportunity in front of the Celtics right now to really regain their footing. I don't expect them to win every single game out of the next 5. But if they go 4-1, that would be nice against the Cavs, the Mavericks, the Knicks, the Heat, and the Spurs. All of these games include quality opponents for the Boston Celtics in which they can go out, grab good wins, and grab good confidence wins going into All-Star break so that they can actually make that turnaround once they come out of All-Star break and really want to turn on the Jets. I would be concerned if the Celtics go into All-Star break kind of where we've been as of late, just because when is the moment in which they're going to really turn it on? If they haven't turned it on going into All-Star break, what's to say they're actually going to turn it on after All-Star break? But regardless, we just saw this 3-game winning streak. We're coming off of it now tonight, and there's still 5 games left until All-Star break where the Celtics can really go on a run here, really prove themselves. And I think that this next week and a half, this could be the spark that really ignites the Celtics machine going ahead into the future, all the way running to June for a back-to-back title. I know it sounds crazy after the month we just had, but that's where this team is still at, and that's what they can still achieve.
Well, I'll say this too real quick, Justin. If there's any thought about this team not wanting to get up because these games are meaningless, right, in January and in December, well, you got Cleveland, who's the 1 seed. You got the finals rematch, and then you have the 3 seed New York Knicks this week.
Don't say finals rematch. There's like no players left on that team anymore.
But I agree. I mean, three teams that
you
should wake up for, and come to play. So it's going to be a great test for these guys.
3 of the last 5 games are on the road. Cleveland's on the road, New York's on the road, Miami's on the road. Those are tough matchups on the road that the Celtics can really go out there and win, and then obviously take care of business against the finals rematch, the Mavericks and San Antonio at home, who, like we just mentioned, that matchup just got a whole lot more fun. I don't know where we're going to take this show, but just before we kind of get into the ins and outs of around the league and what the Celtics look like going forward, I do want to say specifically in this game, in that second half, the Celtics did a tremendous job at, I guess, waking up, and not just because they came back from down 26, but because they realized there was no Joel Embiid tonight for the Philadelphia 76ers. The Celtics were settling a lot in that first half. And once Jason Tatum and Kristaps Porzingis, Jaylen Brown started driving the basketball in that second half, I think it just opened up a huge opportunity for the Celtics. And also, we mentioned about Sam Hauser earlier on, knocking down some big shots late in that third quarter. I mean, it all started with the Celtics driving. And I talked about it earlier, the 76ers, the worst 2-point defending team in history. That's what they were talking about on the broadcast. In history, the worst 2-point field goal defending team. So all night long, the Celtics should have been attacking. I will admit, in the first half, there were some really good looks that the Celtics couldn't connect on. But overall, if we're going to credit something for the Celtics, to win, God bless you. Bless you, Franco. It was them waking up and driving the basketball to the paint. That should have been a thing all night for the Celtics. And I really don't think they would have been in such a huge hole if they had just done what they were supposed to do and attack the basket.
Notice how we split you two tonight? Oh, wait.
Was that talked about?
I could still get him.
I could get him. Right here.
It's like, all right, you're sitting at this desk, Franco, and okay, Justin, you're sitting at this desk.
You guys are pointing the wrong way.
No, we're not.
No, we're not.
Wait, ready? This way is Justin, right? Right? Wait. Huh? Am I pointing at you, Franco?
Come on, Franco.
You guys look like idiots. But let's hop into Tatum tonight. Who was our SeatGeek player of the game? Those hearts. What are those hearts?
What are those? Seamus, you threw yourself a birthday party earlier. Now you're giving. That's
giving
good.
yourself the kisses.
You could do Seamus's kisses, and we could do that. You could do whatever the hell you just did there.
Oh,
look at that! Look at that! Wow!
That's
Franco's watching. That was so cute.
Let's try to do it again. Ooh, wow. I have no idea how I can do that. I just got the magic stick over here, I guess.
All right, well, let's hop into Jason Tatum, guys. Tonight, Jason Tatum was your SeatGeek player of the game, guys. Before we talk about JT and how great he was tonight, I just want to give a huge shout out to the sponsor of the post-game show in this segment, guys. SeatGeek. SeatGeek has you covered for every live event in your area and around the world, guys. At checkout, use code Celtics Weekly for $20 off your first purchase. Again, Celtics Weekly at checkout, guys. You can find that link in the top of our description down below. Guys, again, a huge shout out to SeatGeek, but let's talk about Jason Tatum tonight. 35 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists, 2 stocks, 13 of 20 from the floor, 5 of 8 from behind the arc, guys. 25, I believe, of those 35 points coming in that second half, along with 8 of those assists. He was dominant on all levels. He was unguardable. Justin, something you said was it kind of looked like, oh, wait, hold on. These guys can't guard me, right? There is no Embiid out there. There is no Paul George. And Tatum, alongside Brown, but Tatum in particular tonight was just, you asked me, this is probably one of his best games he's played, guys, all season.
He was comfortable. And I think what Tatum did really well tonight was facilitate, and it shows there with the 11 assist stat. We're so mesmerized by Tatum's scoring numbers all the time, but it's really his improvement in the other statistics on the stat sheet, one of which being his assist number starting to rise. And we've seen this out of Tatum multiple nights now this season where he's getting those double-digit assist numbers. Obviously, it helps when players are hitting their shots, but also Tatum has to be able to, really dictate the offense in order to get that assist, in order for those guys to get those types of shots. So, credit for Jason Tatum coming in tonight and dominating, really brought this team back. And he was engaged defensively, which I don't want to say rarely see from Jason Tatum because he is a pretty good defender, but at the same time, usually we're talking about his offense. But I love the drive from Tatum tonight. I just mentioned it a few minutes ago, but when he just put his head down and got to the basket, there was nobody stopping him. Nobody was going to. Nobody even tried. It was just something that happened. And once, towards the end of that third quarter, start of the fourth, Tatum hit a couple layups. All of a sudden, 16, then 14. You're like, oh, hold on a second. Are the Celtics doing this thing where they come back? But I even said, is this one of those fake comebacks? Is this one of these pranks? Are we getting pranked right now? Giving us false hope. But no, Jason Tatum helped the Celtics storm back and really took over this game in the fourth quarter, Franco.
He really caused the court to tilt tonight for the Celtics. The 76ers really couldn't find an answer for him in any fashion tonight. Even when they were doubling up on him, he was still finding ways to score. And you saw the Celtics did take full advantage of that in the third and fourth quarter. There were a couple of times where he would be setting up a play, just pass it back and forth between Derek White, and he would be open for a spot up three. And that's exactly where you're going to find Derek White and Sam Hauser for their best looks. That's when the Celtics offense is at its most efficient, is when Jason Tatum is able to facilitate, having 11 assists tonight, really open up the floor for the Boston Celtics. And also seeing him active on the defensive end, he was matching up extremely well down low because he was facing a smaller 76ers team. Their center tonight was Gershon Yabusele, who we were generally accustomed to seeing in the 4 position here in Boston. And it was just a game that you really needed to see your star player take over. And if this team is going to maintain this consistent streak, and especially going into these more challenging matchups, you're going to need Jason Tatum to have performances like this and really lead this team by example.
Jason Tatum's playmaking ability was on full display tonight. And you see the 35 points up there, but ultimately those 11 assists and what Jason Tatum was able to do for others was the most impressive thing Jason Tatum did in this contest, because Jason Tatum, as of late, his improvement in terms of playmaking, we saw it last season and even the season prior, but this season in particular, he's putting it all together to actually make an MVP run. Will he win the MVP this year? We don't know. But I really do expect Jason Tatum to finish in that top 5. And part of it is because of his playmaking ability. If we go back and watch film from 21-22, Jason Tatum was not at this level whatsoever. And that was only a couple seasons ago, 3 seasons ago. And now looking ahead, Jason Tatum, the elite playmaking ability Jason Tatum owns within his game, changes everything for the Boston Celtics, because the Boston Celtics, the talent they have across the roster, any of these guys at the top, Kristaps Porzingis, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, they could be your best player on any given night. And really, if Jason Tatum is playmaking at the level in which he's playmaking at, that gives open opportunities to guys like Jaylen Brown off the dribble. That gives opportunities to Kristaps Porzingis off of the pick and pop rolls. That gives opportunities to guys like Derek White and Drew Holiday, whether it's in the corner or on the wing. And you just see so many opportunities open up for all these other players that they would really not otherwise have without Jason Tatum. And that is why Jason Tatum is this team's MVP and could be potentially this season's MVP if everything were to work out in his favor. Some tough competition, I will say, out there, maybe in Denver, of course, Oklahoma City as well. But Jason Tatum, he's right up there with those other playmakers across the league, those other scorers, those other dominant players, MVP candidates across the NBA. And Jason Tatum, what he's been able to do this season, he's still, we forget about this, he's still ascending into his prime.
Yeah.
We like to think that Jason Tatum is really in the meat of his prime, but he's really still ascending to that point in time. Jason Tatum tonight really showed that to us. And what he's doing with the ball in his hands is just super high level basketball, and his IQ is just out of this world at this moment in time. And it's taken years of culmination and really development from his game, playing with all these different players and playmakers throughout his career, and really being meshed and molded into different rosters with different head coaches, whether it's Brad Stevens, Ime Udoka, Joe Mazzulla. Now, Jason Tatum has seen so many different scenarios in the NBA, and this is why guys enter their prime in years 26, or ages really 26, 27, 28. From all that experience you gain early on in your career, all the scenarios you see in front of yourself, and then of course when the team, when when you have a great front office behind yourself, you're a superstar and have a great front office behind yourself, a great organization, that organization builds up the roster waiting for that moment. And Jason Tatum, everything's gone almost perfectly for him up to this moment in his career. I know there's been years in which 21, 22, we lost the NBA finals. We went down 0-3 to the Heat in 23, but last year we won the finals. All these moments have been leading up to Jason Tatum really being one of the most dominant players in the league with one of the most dominant teams. And in terms of all the wins, losses, things could not have gone better for Jason Tatum up to this point in his career because of the front office's ability to put talent around himself, but also his own ability in developing his skills, not only as a scorer, but as a playmaker out on the floor. Jason Tatum, I watched him in high school. He always had the scoring ability within his game, but distributing to others, generating those open shots for others, that's not something that's always in a player's game when they first come into the league, especially with the ball in their hands. And Jason Tatum, the level he's ascended to was not exactly a level we all knew and was guaranteed of him at one point in time. And where he's at now is truly, truly at a level in which he is one of the best players in the NBA. And when he's playing like he played in that second half tonight, the Celtics, they are the most dominant team in the game of basketball. Don't let the record fool you. Don't let the standings fool you. This Celtics team is still the team to beat. And Jason Tatum, he is a massive, massive reason why.
Can we, or maybe not, but if you're a team in the NBA, don't double Jason Tatum because he is going to pick you apart. I know, right? It's literally like please keep doing it. Be like his understanding of space, right? Yes, the assists are amazing and they pop up on the stat. But I mean, even those games where he only has 4, when he's getting doubled, his ability to have control and to draw that double out and to get that ball swinging and to get the ball into the right person. Seamus, you said it. Even if you go back to that Heat series in 22-23, right? That first 3 games was really rough in terms of what Miami was doing against Jason Tatum. It was actually games 4 and on that we saw Tatum kind of ascend into this just elite playmaking role where he just kind of understood what he needed to do with the ball in his hands and how to control the pace of the game. He did that tonight, 35 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists, guys, and he just had control of the game, right? I mean, if you put a fan that had never watched basketball in a seat and said, pick out who you think is the best player on the court, they would have easily picked out number 0 wearing the green, or actually the black jersey tonight, as they were in action green. I like the hat choice, Justin. I just put
the action together, green jerseys were in jeopardy tonight. There were
many
good narratives going against them, and they're going with them, I should say. And then we had that Raptors game tonight. It looked like the Sixers game, and I was getting ready to come in here. I was going to go, Justin. How do you think of those? What do you think of those action green now? After we started 4-0, now the last two have just been utterly horrendous games. But yeah, they saved themselves tonight. Good memory.
They did.
Terrible
Oh,
uniform matchup,
they would have been able to. They would have been able to tell you that Jason Tatum's that team's best player. So again, just closing out here, big props to Tatum. Big props to Brown too. I know he's not the player spotlight, but I also thought Jaylen Brown was huge. I'm guessing Justin, you're going to go somewhere with this, but
well, when you double team Jason Tatum, it leaves other guys open, and one of those guys is usually Derek White. And Derek White, guys, is my flowers tonight. I want to give Derek White my flowers. This might be like my second or third game in a row giving Derek White my flowers. I know I gave him his flowers in the New Orleans game, but he has just been spectacular, and especially in this fourth quarter tonight, we gloat so much on how Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown brought them back into the game. Derek White down the stretch hitting key fourth quarters, and we talk about the facilitation of Jason Tatum. What about Derek White tonight? 9 assists on 17 points, 6 of 11 shooting, a block. Obviously, this guy gets at least a block a game, it feels like, and 5 of 9 shooting from distance. Guys, it feels as if they're – oh, hold on, really quick. Want to shout out Bucket Squad. I forgot to shout out Bucket. How could I forget to shout out Bucket Squad? Bucket Squad's got the hottest basketball merch in the game. Rob likes to rock the Bucket Squad merch constantly. I don't know if he even watches them. So my flowers are presented by Bucket Squad. Bucket Squad, we thank and appreciate you for sponsoring us this season, sponsoring this segment. Guys, if you want to get some amazing basketball merch, Bucket Squad has you covered. It's extremely comfortable, very good active wear. Use code Celtics Talk Weekly at checkout for 10% off your order. Again, code Celtics Talk Weekly at checkout for 10% off your order. Guys, Derek White once again tonight. Rob, I'll start with you, my man. I mean, D. White has been spectacular for the Celtics team. And, we talk so much about Kristaps Porzingis being the X factor, Drew Holiday being an X factor. I guess this is a great problem to have. That just means how talented you have of a team. But as of late, the Celtics have been winning. And guess what? Derek White has been playing some really good basketball. And when he hasn't been, the Celtics have been losing, if not on and off. So we've gotten some consistent play out of Derek White, and we've gotten some consistent wins out of the Celtics. Do those two things align?
Yeah, I mean, they absolutely align. Derek White and Seamus, we talked about this the other night. Derek White is the floor setter for what the Celtics team does. He is what this Derek White determines just how bad or how good the Celtics are going to be. And I think recently in these past 5 games, you're kind of starting to see Derek White slow down a little bit, right? And just play at his normal pace. Tonight, you saw him kind of get his shot back, get in rhythm. You saw it the other night too. Where he isn't just forcing. You're not seeing those one dribble pull up threes off those high screen and rolls anymore. He's eliminating those. He's getting downhill. He's drawing help. He's kicking the ball out. He's really been much better. He's the Derek White I remember seeing, right? And it kind of felt like he had lost his identity there through the months of December and January. But for me, Justin, I absolutely think that Derek White has been, in the past 5 games, huge for the Celtics team. And there is definitely a correlation between Derek White finally playing well and the Celtics starting to pick up some wins in the win column, Franco.
I'm noticing that we're starting to see what we grew to love Derek White for throughout the past 2 playoff stretches we've seen out of him. He is starting to take offensive charges. He's starting to really make that statement on the defensive end. At the beginning of the season, we were starting to question if he has lost that on-ball step, if he's able to match up against players that he used to. Is Drew Holiday and Derek White still the best defensive pairing in the NBA? I think that they're really starting to bring that back, and it kind of revolves around how the team has been playing. We've been seeing a lot of individual performances, which was probably due to the Celtics' inconsistencies, and one of the main reasons you weren't seeing this team play as a collective. And the first telltale sign that the Celtics are playing as a whole is Derek White is producing for the team. He's one of those players that really rides the uh, tails of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and if they're able to produce, he knows that his opportunities are only going to open up from there. He did a great job of getting his look from 3-point tonight, and what we saw he didn't have to do as much of tonight, which was cutting to the rim, but it really opens up a lot of this offense when you see him moving off ball and also producing on the defensive end.
Derek White, as of late, this is the corner we want to see be turned by Derek White, because ultimately that beginning of January into December, yeah, he had 3 good games in there, but ultimately outside of those 3 games, in which was a 3-game winning streak for the Boston Celtics, Derek White did not play good basketball whatsoever, and he just looked like a completely different player than what the Celtics needed him to be. And I don't want to say any of us hit the panic button or Celtics Nation was hitting the panic button, but in terms of Derek White, there were legitimate questions asked about himself pertaining whether or not he could get back to the level in which we saw last year. And I thought that was going to be a major concern for the Boston Celtics going ahead in the season, that if you don't have Derek White playing up to the level we saw last year, which was a near all-star player, that's going to be really, really hard to go back to back, because he was such a huge part in simply winning the first championship for the Boston Celtics. And yet, within the last couple of games, Derek White, he's shown us that that little stretch we just saw in December and January, that could be more of a fluke from what we've seen from Derek White, particularly if we look at all the data in the past, because there's a lot more data to suggest the player we're seeing right now is the true player and the true play of Derek White in its entirety. And ultimately what we saw was this weird lull out of Derek White where he wasn't shooting well, wasn't making the right decisions. We talked about it last post game, Rob, where could he have been hurt potentially, Derek White, during that time? Was he coming back from an injury we really didn't know about? Was he sore? Was he tired? What was going on with Derek White? We'll never really know, but we really don't want to know going ahead in time if he's putting up this type of production for the Boston Celtics, because now we're starting to talk about him every single post game. He's starting to become more like Peyton Pritchard was in December, where we just couldn't get him off the screen in terms of the graphics. It was, Peyton Pritchard every night. Well, now it's Derek White every single night. Again, it just really highlights how much talent is on this Boston Celtic team when you have multiple players on the roster that can take over the conversation like Derek White is taking up right now for the Boston Celtics. Tremendous game from D. White tonight, and really a tremendous stretch that I really do believe we're going to see a lot more of going into the future, because everything pertained to decision making when it came to Derek White on both ends of the floor. And those decisions, he looks a lot more relaxed, looks a lot more patient, like you said, Rob. And those decisions ultimately look a lot more in terms of his just ability to do what he does on the floor. They look like they're coming in more of a rhythmic sense for Derek White. So I think moving forward, Derek White, we're going to see a lot more games out of him like this. And I think he's going to be a lot more reliable of a player for the Boston Celtics. He's really starting to get it going.
It's big when Derek White specifically is able to play like the way he's been playing, especially knocking down shots, because that's been his issue. Defensively, I feel like his prowess has always been there, but offensively, his shot has been off. I even alluded to this is kind of like the Derek White we got in the 22 season when he first was traded here. He was still trying to find his way in the offense, just stood at the 3-point line and kind of, wasn't really in the offense at all, missed a lot of 3-point shots. Well, he's been active in the offense as of late, and when he has been shooting, he has been knocking down shots, which is huge, and which is why Jason Tatum's assist numbers have been fluctuated recently, especially tonight. So, flowers out to D. White, and he's been on one recently, and we needed him to be on one for a really long time. Similar to Kristaps Porzingis, we gave KP the benefit of the doubt, obviously returning from a 5-month recovery span. But remember, KP wasn't all that in a bag of chips when he first returned, but he's been spectacular as well. And Rob and Seamus mentioned this the other night in the New Orleans Pelicans post-game live show. We're starting to see these individual performances kind of happen all at once together. We're starting to see KP have a good game at the same time as Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Derek White. Tonight, Sam Hauser was that guy off the bench with Peyton Pritchard being out. So when we're starting to see these guys really put it together, it might take a little bit longer, obviously. The 3 wins in a row compared to is phenomenal. But, this last month and a half, 6 to 8 week stretch, the Celtics have really not looked like themselves. So it's going to take a lot more than 3 straight wins. But I will say, in terms of individual performances, in terms of collective performances, in terms of getting back in the win column, this was definitely a very solid week for the Boston Celtics, at least the last 4 to 5 days for the Boston Celtics. And they have a big one on Tuesday night against the Cleveland Cavaliers, Rob, which I'm sure we're going to talk about in just a few minutes here. I do want to mention, I don't think we had Jaylen Brown or Derek White last time we were in Cleveland. And Boston, we did have a 15-point lead at one point, and then all of a sudden an eruption in the last 10 minutes from Donovan Mitchell. So this is going to be a fun game Tuesday night. And I do think the Celtics winning 3 straight games doesn't obviously mean we're back, but I will say it would have been really discouraging if the Celtics were either on a losing streak or on the whole on-off switch still going into this Cleveland game. At least this gives us a little bit of momentum going into Tuesday night.
Well, you know what? It's a damn shame Boston decided to do the whole win-loss thing, right? Because I'll tell you what, they lose tonight, they would have been a guaranteed win Tuesday against Cleveland. But in all seriousness, you're right. We got to look forward to that game. It's a Tuesday game, obviously here. Obviously, we're going to touch base on the Luka Doncic trade right after this, guys. But let's briefly. We kind of already briefly talked about it, but this Cleveland matchup, guys, and what it could mean for the Celtics. You look at Boston now. This is a team who is now 14-10 in their past 24 games, going up against a Cleveland team that has been on fire. Obviously, coming down a little bit down to earth recently, 7-3 in their last 10 games. They blew out Dallas tonight. That was mean. That shouldn't have even had to happen.
Shame on them. They should have given Dallas that game.
Yeah. I mean, that needed to get played in a week. But, so you look at this matchup and you look at this Boston team, guys, who obviously the defending NBA champs looking to go back to back. You look at this Cleveland team, right? Kind of the surprise team of the season. They were a team that didn't make any moves this offseason. They stood pat. They stood with their crew. Team loses to Boston in 5 games last year in the postseason. This game here, in my opinion, is probably the biggest game of the year for the Celtics. Yeah. It's the first time we're seeing a high-end Eastern Conference team after the date of February 1st, which is really when these matchups start to become playoff preview, guys. So what does this game mean for Boston, and what does it mean for Cleveland?
I'll go first really quick, and I'll let you guys go. But Seamus, you mentioned earlier about the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I do want to say this. I do want to just preface this, and winning the last 3 games is nice. And Rob, you mentioned this too, but we're expected to beat a Philly team without Joel Embiid. We're expected to beat a Zion-less New Orleans Pelicans. We're expected to blow out on their home court a Zach LaVine-less, which actually doesn't make a difference now that we're talking about it. Chicago Bulls, but these are expectation wins for the Boston Celtics despite struggling these past 2 months. But Cleveland, this is a measuring stick game for me. This will tell us kind of where we're at, in my opinion. And I get it, we're still pre-All-Star break, and I'd rather see this team come late March, early April before the playoffs to really get a good measuring stick. But these teams that we've been playing, we know that we are better than, even during a slump. We know that we can beat them. And these are teams that we're less likely going to face in a playoff series compared to a Cleveland Cavaliers team potentially in the Eastern Conference Finals. So this is a game for me that I'm really going to take very, very seriously. And I think the Cavaliers as well, even though the Celtics are the ones who lost to the Cavaliers last time these two teams played against each other. Yes, the Cavs are the first seed, but they do realize that they still need to go through the Boston Celtics when it comes playoff time. They do respect the Celtics. They know who they are. They know where they're coming from. They know that they just won a championship less than a year ago. So this is going to be a really fun game. It should be. And we talk about the Cavs coming back down to earth a little bit. This would be a great win. And we talk about the standings. We talk about the standings, Celtics coming back a little bit in the standings, making up some ground. This should be a great game to make up some ground in the standings, Franco.
Especially with what's been going on around the NBA and what type of perspective teams have started to gain on the Boston Celtics. They're starting to see the Celtics as a vulnerable team to take advantage of, and really seeing the Eastern Conference a little bit more open than it really is. I think that you'll see the Celtics really have a strong matchup. I I feel like on paper the Celtics really do have the advantage over the Cleveland Cavaliers at this point of the season. However, they're a much more younger team and a lot more energetic, and still, as the number one seed, have more to prove than the Boston Celtics. But that's really where this game is going to, what it's going to come down to. Who's going to see this as the opportunity to prove themselves as the number one team in the East? Because the Celtics already have, from what we've seen, already kind of have their shoulders back, knowing that they're the champion, they're the contending champions, but the Cleveland Cavaliers are really starting to come down to earth. So this is really one of the better times for the Celtics to meet up with Cleveland, other than during the Eastern Conference Finals.
This game against the Cleveland Cavaliers coming up on the schedule, it's a little odd now seeing this game on the schedule compared to the first two we saw, because the first two we saw were right next to each other, right? One of them was an NBA Cup game, and that first one, the Cavs were coming off their beginning of the season streak. They were 15-0. Everybody was saying, "Oh, can they match the Warriors record to start the season?" And we were going, "No, this is the Boston Celtics at home at TD Garden." And then that second matchup came about, and it was almost as if there was less hype around it because it was, I believe, the beginning of December. It was December 1st, or it was somewhere around that date. And ultimately, the Celtics in that game, it felt like it was a little bit of a weird Sunday affair, because that game started earlier on Sunday, and it wasn't early, but it was one of those. It was like tonight's game, really. I believe it started at 6 o'clock Eastern that night. It was a little earlier in the schedule, and the Celtics, they were without Brown, they were without Derek White, and they came in, and it didn't feel as big of a matchup as this one does coming up on the schedule, specifically because of where the standings lay right now, but also what the Celtics have been doing with with the rest of the season since that first and second Cleveland game. At that point in the season, we were thinking, Cleveland hot start, they might taper off, Celtics will go ahead. Well, now Cleveland, they've been for real for the last couple of months. They've been putting a lot of points up on the board, and this is a real test for the Boston Celtics and even the Cleveland Cavaliers to prove either one of themselves are serious in contending for the title this year. Rob, we talked about last post game with the energy shifting for the Boston Celtics. It was that game against the Brooklyn Nets that really proved, the Celtics, they could actually do it this season. Well, this game coming up on the schedule could be like that for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I'm not saying they're going on a 21-22 Celtics run and they're going to beat the Celtics in the playoffs, but at the same time, they very much, I bet, look at this game and go, if we can win this game in a fashion in which we handle the Boston Celtics, there's going to be a lot more confidence in us that we can actually go forward and move on, grab that number one seed, and go and win the title. The Celtics, they want to stop that right here in its tracks. They want to go and prove to the Cleveland Cavaliers, yeah, you got us that second time in Cleveland, but we had a 14-point lead in that game. We were without Brown. We were without White. Mitchell shot out of his mind, making tough shots all over the place. Exactly. Well, that was a Drew Peterson week, really. If we think back to it, that was just a crazy stretch for Drew Peterson, a career highlight week. But this stretch coming up for the Boston Celtics, particularly against these other teams and even the Cleveland Cavaliers, this is going to be big because it's going to either give the Celtics confidence or it's going to give confidence to these other teams right next to the Celtics in the standings, whether it's the Knicks, whether it's the Cavaliers in front of the Celtics. And at this point in time, I really do believe that these games, they not only matter within the standings, the Knicks game, the Cavaliers game, but they really matter from a standpoint of what we're going to see later in the playoffs and where the confidence of these teams go later in the season, really the narratives that start to form around these basketball teams. The Eastern Conference is a lot tougher than it was last season, this season, and ultimately the Boston Celtics, they're not going to be able to just trot their way to the NBA Finals like they did in 2024. And the Cleveland Cavaliers, I certainly believe with what they've been doing this season, they could certainly be a team that give the Celtics a lot of trouble, but the Celtics still are going to have a lot of great mismatches to go to against the Cleveland Cavaliers and who the Cavaliers will have defending the Boston Celtics. And I cannot wait to see part of it play out in the regular season coming up here on Tuesday, right? Tuesday?
Yes,
Tuesday. Hey, we got
Hey, you got
I
the
almost
date
said
right.
Sunday. Today is Sunday. It's a Tuesday game. But that game is going to be important for the Boston Celtics. It's not just just another regular season game. Well, no, the Raptors game and the Cavaliers game, there's different types of energy that comes within those games. We saw it against Oklahoma City earlier this season. We've seen it in games past and against the Mavericks, really, when the Mavericks they didn't have Luka Doncic in that particular game, but they still don't have Luka Doncic, and they will never have Luka Doncic ever again unless there's a reunion. But at the same time, these games have different energy to them, and this Celtics Cavaliers game, I believe, will be another one of these games for the Boston Celtics moving ahead.
So if I'm not gonna, here we go. I'm gonna put this question out here, but I also feel as if I don't know. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it's a turning point. Maybe it's just like I say, a step in the right direction. How good would we feel if the Celtics go out Tuesday night and get a win? I mean, it has to feel really, really good, right? Like, I'm not saying we're turning the corner and we're back. I'm just saying it definitely would feel pretty good if we got this win, considering the month we've had.
It would feel like we're a switch team if we win that game, where it's like, oh, if we want to flip the switch, we might actually be able to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that. But let me say this, because the truth is, and I really like what Seamus had to say, what you had to say about this. But I think the tough part is like, can Boston get up for this game? Because the truth is, right, Boston eliminated Cleveland last year. Boston, the defending champs. Boston, right, as a team that has nothing to prove against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Absolutely nothing, right? They do not need to prove themselves against Cleveland. Cleveland needs to prove themselves against Boston. So I do think that there could be a potential, like, mental blocker that Boston could run into, because they do need to get up for this game, because it is a big game. It's 1 versus 2. It's a chance at getting closer to that 1 seed. It's a great data point to see where you match up against the teams at the top of the Eastern Conference. So I do think that you feel good winning this game, but also I will say this: Boston, this doesn't, like, in the grand, Boston doesn't need this win, right? Like, they don't need to prove to anybody they can beat Cleveland.
So you
They've
think
already
this
done
is a
that.
bigger game for Cleveland than Boston, despite the month we've had?
Oh, absolutely. Of course, anytime anybody's playing the defending champions, it's a bigger game from them. Like, listen, when you're playing Boston, there's more pressure on you to beat Boston than there is on Boston to beat you. Because Boston right now is the team to beat until they are eliminated from contention officially.
Especially, like you just mentioned, especially a team that eliminated you months prior, right? Like Cleveland, you eliminated. You have Miami coming up. Obviously they're a big match, but obviously a big win against Boston, the defending champs, team that essentially ended your franchise right now. That'd be a big win. So no, I can see where you're coming from, Rob, and I 100% agree with you. But I will admit, I will feel a lot better about the Celtics team if they go in on Tuesday night and they get a win. I'm not saying that if they lose, I'm not going to say
I agree.
It's over. I'm just saying like, man, okay, like, even after the month we've had, we've been able to string together some wins in a row. We've been able to take down a team that we're currently chasing right now. Like, I think it'd be more of a feel good win for the.
Oh, he's gone. He's back. No, he's gone. Is he back? Mic check. Mic check. Nope.
Nope.
Nope. Nope. Nope. The mic's done. It's had its days.
You broke it. What'd you say about me? Your mic's
No luck.
completely off.
I think Justin thinks we're pranking him right now. I think that's what's happening. Yeah. See, only head
Dude,
I think
signals.
he's pranking us.
Hold on. I don't know why.
Oh, we're
No,
good.
it works. It
No, you're
works.
on my
He was-
MacBook now. Nothing changed.
Oh.
Oh,
My mic must have crapped the bed here. I don't know.
Uh-oh.
could-
So now we have
I could
Franco's
swear I could
camera
put money-
and Justin's mic.
I put tape on mine.
I could have put money on you were pranking me, by the way. I could have put money that you were pranking me. But no, just getting back to what I was saying, I do think this would be a really big win for the Celtics. Just obviously, yes, it does mean a little bit more for Cleveland. You know, they got knocked out against us. Kind of want to prove that we could hang out with the defending champs, but also considering the month we've been having, it would be pretty relieving if the Celtics were able to go in, beat the number 1 seed on the road, as well as string together your 4th straight win, something the Celtics have been incapable of doing for the longest time. We've had a hard time this past month getting back-to-back wins, let alone 4 in a row. So Tuesday is definitely the biggest game of the year so far. I know we've said that every time we've played the Cavaliers, but this I truly see it as the biggest game of the year.
Yeah, for sure. But guys, if you live under a rock, maybe you don't know this, but if you don't, I know we're Celtics Talk Weekly, but this trade in particular shook the sports world for better or for worse, depending on what your point of view is. It, guys, late last night, Shams reported that Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis would be swapped in a 3-team deal, sending Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks over to the LA Lakers alongside Maxi Kleber and Markieff Morris in exchange for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, in a 2029 first-round pick. Obviously, Utah, not really important in this deal. However, Jalen Hood and 2 second-round picks coming from there, guys. Obviously, Luka Doncic here in this trade, coming off of a 2024 NBA Finals appearance, guys, just got traded at the deadline. There were reports that came out from Dallas's GM saying that they were unhappy and unsatisfied with what Luka Doncic was presenting them with his conditioning and had his attitude about his conditioning. There were some reports that come up that Luka is up to 270 pounds. Guys, now, when you look at this trade, right, off first glance, first of all, I just want to say this is probably the biggest sports trade in American sports history in terms of the magnitude and how shocking this deal was. You don't get your 25-year-old superstar traded at the deadline. That doesn't happen. I mean, a player of the magnitude of which Luka Doncic is, you don't see him dealt, period. And for this to happen, I mean, this shook the sports world, guys. Now, where are you at with this trade? Was this malpractice on the GM's owner?
I'll tell you what, this last night, I was ready for bed. I was in bed. I was laying down there. I just shut the TV off, and all of a sudden, my phone's blowing up of Seamus's notifications. And it's funny. We live in such a world in which a technology-driven world where if we see something, it's photoshopped, or if we see a tweet, this person was hacked. And that was the big question. This sports trade was so big and so significant that 99.9% of the world, other than Shams and the 2 GMs, believed that this was a fake trade, that this was hacked, this is AI generated. But no, it just turns out that this is also one of the most private trades in NBA history. Usually when you hear trades, you hear rumors and talks, usually leaks and all that happen. No, there was nothing. Really, there was really nothing. Legion Hoops threw out something about a week ago saying that, the Lakers have their eye set on Luka Doncic for the future. And everybody was like, well, I'm sure the other 29 teams have their eye set on Luka Doncic for the future. But my first glance at this, I thought it was a terrific trade for the Los Angeles Lakers. Xavier said it best. Anytime you have a chance to trade for a 25-year-old generational superstar, you go out and do it 10 times out of 10. What I will say is I don't think this puts the Lakers in championship contention mode right now. I mentioned that this De'Aaron Fox trade, who we'll talk about a little later, I think this De'Aaron Fox trade to pair with Victor Wembanyama is a perfect trade post Chris Paul. When Chris Paul is done, all said and done, I think this is a perfect post LeBron trade when it's all said and done. You have your young generational superstar in Luka Doncic, who is already one of the faces of this league. You pair him next to LeBron James for the remainder of LeBron's career. LeBron retires, boom. Lakers still have their superstar face of the league player. As far as Dallas gets a big guy that they've been needing, that they've been wanting. Obviously, it fits them right now. It puts them to win right now. But at the same time, I think he's 5 or 6 years older than Luka Doncic. He's injury prone. This is all if both these two players can stay healthy, because you took two of the league's biggest superstars. Obviously, there's better players out there, but two of the league's biggest superstars, also two of the league's biggest injury prone superstars, and you swapped them. So that's kind of my first initial thoughts on this trade. And then everybody in the group chat last night was saying, is this real? Is this real? And I kind of said like, oh, well, this looks real because Danny Ainge somehow swept in there and got 2 second-round draft picks out of it. So, and I thought it was funny, all the memes are coming out, back in 2019 when the Celtics had Danny Ainge as their GM and Kyrie Irving as their superstar player. There was a lot of talks about Anthony Davis potentially suiting up for the Celtics and pairing Anthony and Kyrie. Well, I guess they got that. They got that about 6 years later, but at the same time, Dallas is still a scary team right now. Obviously tonight, I think it was criminal. The Cleveland Cavaliers beat them by almost 50 tonight, but I think this was a move for the future for Dallas, for the Lakers, and this was a move for the right now for the Mavericks. But overall, I'm not thrilled about this trade for the Dallas Mavericks. It makes me appreciate Jason Tatum a lot more. This is equivalent. And for the people who don't understand this trade and have asked me upon it, I'm like, imagine trading away Jason Tatum, because to me, that's the equivalent of that. Yes, the Celtics do have a significantly more eye-appealing team around Jason Tatum than Luka did in Dallas, but at the same time, your young generational talent, one of the best players in this league already for his age, is traded. You scratch your head.
Well, and just real quick here, I just want to real quick.
Yeah.
If you want to move off Luka, you don't want to pay him, right? Sure. You don't think he's worth $350 million. That's okay. Quite frankly, you ask me, and I'm on the opposite end of the fence with the Luka Doncic experience. I think he's a whole lot of offense, and I think there's a much bigger aspect to the game of basketball that Luka can't present. However, if you don't want to pay him, that's fine, right? That's fine. A-okay. You don't have to pay him. But to not shop a player at the caliber of Luka Doncic is, quite frankly, criminal. To not shop him, to not call all 29 teams and say, hey, listen, it's the Luka Doncic sweepstakes, highest bidder wins. I mean, to not get a plethora of first round picks, to not get a plethora of young stars, it was absolutely pathetic. The Los Angeles Lakers managed to get Luka Doncic, who is arguably a top 5 player in the NBA, right? They managed to acquire him for essentially, in 3 years, you'll look back and say, a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start with this trade. I really don't, because this was easily the biggest, most shocking NBA trade in all of history. I mean, the one that came close was the Paul George trade to the Los Angeles Clippers when Kawhi Leonard signed with the Los Angeles Clippers, and then the next notification was, and Paul George is also traded to the Clippers.
That was also
as well.
Right.
And that was right after Summer League, right after an earthquake delayed the games, and Zion. That was a crazy night. Zion Williamson made his Summer League debut. There was an earthquake in Las Vegas that delayed the Summer League games, and then an earthquake of a trade with Paul George going to the Los Angeles Clippers and Kawhi Leonard signing there as well. This didn't even compare to that night, however, because Luka Doncic, Rob, you've already said it. How? I want to say there's more that we don't know about either Luka Doncic, or we can get really conspiratorial about how the league potentially played a hand in this, because Luka Doncic right now 25-year-old superstar. It does not matter what his physical shape is at this moment in time. It does not matter what his conditioning is because Luka Doncic has already proven to us he can play an old man style of game. And do I believe his defensive game is all the way there? No, he's one of the worst defensive links on the Dallas Mavericks. You could certainly point to that and go, okay, well, maybe the Mavericks weren't thrilled with that and his conditioning, blah, blah. But his offensive game, look at last decade. Steph Curry, not particularly great of a defensive player, still impacted the game overwhelmingly from an offensive aspect to bring the Warriors to 5 straight NBA finals. Had great teammates as well, but Steph Curry was really the gem of that team and his shooting ability. Well, Luka Doncic, his playmaking ability on the floor is unmatched across the league. You only see this type of playmaking ability out of guys like potentially Nikola Jokic. In the past, we've seen it from guys like Steve Nash, Magic Johnson. That is really on the level, and that's really the level in which Luka Doncic is on. He's at an all-time level, and he was the MVP favorite coming into the season. How is it possible the Los Angeles Lakers land yet another superstar? Look in time at the Los Angeles Lakers history. They land Wilt Chamberlain. They land Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. They land Shaquille O'Neal. They land Pau Gasol. They land Anthony Davis and LeBron James as well. And this just adds on to the long list of players the Los Angeles Lakers have acquired from other teams who were drafted by other teams who are now going to be, and really have been in the past, the star face in Los Angeles and for the rest of the league. Luka Doncic, he's on the Lakers now. How is this? How did this happen? How are the Dallas Mavericks? Nico Harrison, I'm going to take it a step further than criminal, and maybe this is a step back. I don't know, criminal. That might be a step further than this. This is a fireable offense. This is a fireable offense.
Say that. I was just
100%, because Luka Doncic is somebody that is arguably, in terms of looking at all the players in the league, he's a top 5 NBA player, if not a top 3 NBA player. And there's only a couple of guys in which you would consider not trading for Luka Doncic. The Dallas Mavericks could have called 29 other teams, no doubt, and received a better package than what they received from the Los Angeles Lakers, because Anthony Davis, for as good as he's been as of late, he's a player nobody wanted to touch for the last 3 seasons because he couldn't stay on the court. Yeah. Simply put, he could not stay on the court whatsoever consistently. He's even injured right now, Anthony Davis. Both of these players, that's what needs to be mentioned as well. Luka Doncic out with a calf injury. Anthony Davis out with an abdominal injury. Both players injured, but Anthony Davis is a player that teams did not want to touch. Outside of him, Max Christie, he comes over to the Mavericks. Okay, he's an average role player, had a great game against the New York Knicks for the Los Angeles Lakers last night before he was told, all right, gather up your stuff. You're going to Dallas. You get Max Christie if you're the Mavericks, and a 2029 first-round pick from the Lakers. How is there not multiple swaps? How is there not multiple first-round picks? This makes absolutely no sense. It's almost reminiscent of the Kawhi deal in a sense where, it's a Kawhi sweepstakes all summer, and yet the Spurs end up with DeMar DeRozan and Jakob Poeltl and nothing else. Well, how did that exactly go down in itself? This trade is almost similar where you traded arguably a top 5 NBA player who you really wouldn't trade. There are only a few players you wouldn't trade Luka Doncic for. Only a few. If you're other teams, you're going, I'm good. I'm good with Shea. I'm good with Jason Tatum. I'm good with Jokic. I'm good with Giannis. Any other player across the league, you're going, you know what? It's Luka Doncic. We got to hit the trigger on this one. And the Mavericks come up with 1 first-round pick and Anthony Davis, who's 31. And I can understand from a certain standpoint of, I actually can't understand this. I can understand why.
He's trying.
I can understand the reasonings why, but at the same time, I just can't. I can't comprehend it. I'm malfunctioning because the Mavericks didn't want to give Luka Doncic, who's apparently had all these conditioning problems, which is not really mattered in the past whatsoever. I mean, Luka Doncic is still a fantastic player with or without conditioning problems. He's proven himself to be a player who could actually age in this league like fine wine, because it doesn't really matter how he moves on the floor. He's basically a Jokic guard, if you want to throw out that term. Luka Doncic, why? We don't want to give him the 5-year, $345 million extension next year? Why? The Mavericks owners didn't want to commit to that money and wanted an extra year of Anthony Davis, who just signed an extension. Anthony Davis has one more year left on his deal than Luka Doncic has right now. So it does give the Mavericks a little bit of guaranteed money in the future in terms of Anthony Davis. It does take the Mavericks what this deal did. It took the Mavericks below the luxury tax line, so you could say that for the Dallas Mavericks. But nothing even matters when it comes to the fact the Dallas Mavericks moved on from Luka Doncic. The Lakers take in Luka Doncic, and that's what everybody. Justin, you mentioned, oh, the Lakers don't have a center. It doesn't matter. They just traded for Luka Doncic. You'll figure that out later if you're the Lakers. And I really think this was undoubtedly, Justin, you already said it. This was I don't want to say it was a win now move for the Mavericks, because I really do think the Mavericks potentially got worse trading away
100%.
Luka Doncic. But at the same time, the Mavericks, they have put themselves in a win now situation, because now Kyrie Irving, he's going to be 33 years old. Anthony Davis, he's 31 years old. You only have a couple more years with those players at their primes. And I would say both those players have been injury prone as well. But then Luka Doncic, he's 25 years old, and the Lakers, they're going, we're going to find a center by the time he's 26, 27. And for the rest of the season, it doesn't matter if we're going to compete whatsoever. And I do believe Luka and LeBron, I'm just saying this right now, folks, I would not be surprised if LeBron James is moved ahead of the trade deadline. I don't know how we got to this point from last night. I remember washing my hands in the bathroom. People have shower thoughts. I have washing my hands thoughts. I go, this deadline, new CBA, it's like a lot of big contracts, might be actually pretty boring. Like a lot of teams might stand pat. And then boom, we have Luka Doncic move across the Western Conference. And now the next night I'm talking about, I think LeBron James, he's a clutch client like Anthony Davis is. I think LeBron James, if you look at it across the league, we heard that Legion Hoops tweet about the Warriors, but I'm going to bring them up. LeBron James and Steph Curry pair well together. I would say they pair more well than Luka and LeBron. Luka and LeBron seem a little redundant to me, I will say, with the ball in their hands. I don't know how LeBron's going to play off ball. Luka's going to play off ball. I would not be surprised now if you're the Los Angeles Lakers, you have your 25-year-old superstar in place for potentially the next decade, if you're okay with now moving on from a 40-year-old LeBron James. That would not surprise me whatsoever. And it's one of the most bombshell stories we've ever seen in not only NBA history, but sports history. This is substantial, and there's so much more to really say on it, but those are just those are my initial thoughts on it. I know I'm rambling at this point, but this is just everybody thought it was fake. Everybody thought Shams was hacked. We were looking at it going, there's no, I saw it on the Blazers broadcast. I was watching Blazers Suns. They pulled it up. They had the little graphic mistake of that little scroll bar on the side of the screen. And I thought, what is this? Like, what am I even looking at right now? And this has to be some kind of trade take, right? Like, we're getting NBA Centelled right now, right? Like, this is not real. This is a Sham Sharon. Like, this is not Sham Sharania right now.
Yeah.
And no, it's real. It's real, folks. Luka Doncic is a Los Angeles Laker. Anthony Davis is a Dallas Maverick, and I'm perplexed. There's nobody can make sense of this deal. Nobody.
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. My laptop might die, so I'm gonna give my final thoughts on this really quick. This is like the ultimate backstabbing to Luka Doncic, in my opinion. This is a player who was the face of your franchise, 25-year-old, spectacular talent, once in a lifetime talent in this league at the age of 25. This guy was piecing us up in the 2016 preseason when the Celtics went out to Real Madrid. If you guys remember that, they played Luka Doncic at 16 years old. This is a player who wanted to be in Dallas for the rest of his life. This is a player who wanted to be known as one of the greatest Dallas Mavericks ever. And he certainly has been that since Dirk Nowitzki has retired. And all of a sudden, what's the GM's name out there in Dallas? What's his name? He just made the move. I don't even know him. He's so stupid. He just made the move, and he just had the meeting today.
Who?
Dallas. Who made
GM?
the move for Dallas? Yeah.
Nico Harrison?
Yeah, him. Oh, what an idiot. And he went on today and the press conference. Well, and I mean it not because of the trade, but how he explained the trade. He goes, yeah, and Jason Kidd sitting right there. Poor guy, already defeated. Talk about kicking somebody while they're down. He's like, yeah, Jay Kidd didn't know. Luka Doncic didn't know. LeBron James didn't know. And it's like, so you kept this entire thing a secret. You had zero communication. You didn't care this is a year after you went to the NBA finals for the first time since I think 2011. And you just decided to do this on your own. Like, it's like the whole group project. It's like you think you would like to hear everybody else's thing. And it's like, nope. Essentially, I don't care about what any of you think. I'm doing this. I'm trading away our franchise player. I'm trading away one of the faces of the league. I'm trading away a potential multi-time winning MVP caliber player away. And guess what? I'm sending him to a team who we're going to be seeing for 4 times a year, a team that we're going to have to get through in the playoffs in the future, maybe even right now. It's not like he traded Luka out east. Okay, we don't have to worry about him. No, he traded him to the Los Angeles Lakers. This is a team that they're going to have to play. I don't get it. I don't want to get it. I don't want to understand it. This was a truly shocking move. It was an exciting move just because we really don't see these types of blockbuster trades, especially
blockbuster is exactly what it is for the Mavericks, by the way. Just saying.
I mean, we don't see this often, and when we do, it's usually in July or August. It's in the off season. We never see this type of move in the regular season. So to me, it's the ultimate betrayal, the ultimate backstabbing of Luka Doncic. There was zero communication. There was zero efforts. This in my opinion, is equivalent to Brad Stevens not caring at all and saying, okay, Jason Tatum, you got us to the championship. Yes, Tatum did win it and Luka lost it, but you got us there.
It was like in 2023 if you did this.
And you know what I'm saying, though? Like, I'm saying, like, this is Tatum Young, face of the franchise, one of the faces of the league, and Brad Stevens, no communication, says, okay, see ya, bye. I just threw you away for nothing. And that's essentially what it is. That's essentially what it is.
Brandon Ingram, Jose Alvarado, and the Pelicans' first-round pick.
So, and then really quickly to go off Rob's point, it's like you're telling me you couldn't reach out to the 29 other teams and see if there was a better deal out there. You're telling, and even
sweepstakes, dude. There should have been bidders on bidders on bidders, and they should have had 15 offers to hand pick and to take the time and the due diligence to figure out which situation best suits them. Because, guys, I don't think you understand. Luka Doncic, you find a Luka Doncic once every 20 years. He is truly a diamond in the rough. I mean, for a teams pray and hope that they can draft a player like Luka. And for Dallas, I'm going to sound crazy, but it seems fake still. It seems set up. It seems like an inside job.
Political. Yeah.
Because of just how bizarre and how unexpected this trade is. Like, you trade their 25-year-old coming off of a finals trip, right, to the LA for AD and a first, for Anthony Davis and a first-round pick.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And also, you screwed him because now Luka Doncic is missing out on about $100 million. Had he stayed in Dallas, he's going to be able to spend.
Who cares?
I think that 365 max. I'm just saying. This goes on to my backstabbing point. Like, now Luka can't. I know the rich get richer, but Luka loses about $100 million on this, even if he does re-sign for the max in LA. Also, Franco, I'm not going to go down this route incredibly, but like Franco, you talk about politics, you talk about was this set up? Ratings are down. Luka Doncic going to LA. Seamus, what are we doing? We're raising an eyebrow. I also want to say, you talk about the house income tax. You go from one of the best income taxes in Dallas, Texas, to now you got to pay Los Angeles Lakers, where you're giving up 90% of your contract for just to live there. Ooh, not a great situation for Luka, but a 10 out of 10 trade if you're the Los Angeles Lakers, in terms of this sets you up beautifully for the post LeBron era. You're going to be able to build a team around Luka Doncic. And you, like Xavier said, 10 times out of 10, you do this, especially, and you mentioned this earlier, Rob, especially when you didn't fish around the league in Dallas. I mean, it's the best they got for Luka Doncic. It's laughable. It's laughable.
Without a doubt. And, that's kind of what you have to look at. Sorry, Seamus, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, I was going to say, Franco, you got anything to say about this? Because this
Yeah,
is
Mark-
for real. Oh, Justin's.
I'm out, by the way. It's 1%. It ain't going to last. It ain't going to last, mate.
Mark Cuban's going to be bringing that guy out. Oh,
We don't want him.
Yeah.
I'm still
got
here.
him out of here like
I'm
Luka
still
Doncic.
here. I'm still here. I'm still here. Loser.
I didn't know you
Rob,
could hear
I'm
me.
trading you next, and I'm not going to go with the team. I'm just going to pull.
Better
out
hurry up
whatever
before
the
that
hell his
laptop
name
dies.
is. Yeah.
Mark Cuban's going to drag whoever the GM is out on a night. He's going to be like, hey, you want to go out fishing? You want to check out my boat? Come on. And you're never going to see him ever again. This trade was something that is really making me scratch my head. And I can almost guarantee that either or both of these teams are not done. There's definitely the trade deadline coming up next Wednesday or Thursday. And I would guarantee that you're going to see the Dallas Mavericks looking to acquire a guard or a forward. And you'll also see the Lakers trying to acquire a center, whoever becomes available. The Nikola Vucevic's, the Jonas Valanciunas'. Those caliber players are going to be available. Miles Turner is also on the market. But you look at the Dallas Mavericks, they're going to be in a very tough situation coming up because you're looking at three players who are past their prime, and you're not going to see much more development with their big three. And it's a real hard big three to really put your money on with Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, and Anthony Davis. I'm not even sure how long you'll be able to keep that team together and be able to build a chemistry because this team is very really placed together and was built around Luka all the way up to this point where he was traded away. They put all the pieces around, built the offense around. The game plan for Jason Kidd is probably completely out the window for the Dallas Mavericks moving forward. But the Lakers are definitely in a position where I think like one or two more additions, they could really make some noise, especially during playoffs with the amount of veteran experience that they have with LeBron James and also Luka, who just proved that he can lead a team to an NBA championship, is something that really I do think that there had to be some type of money, and there's definitely going to be some movement within the Mavericks front office within the next week or so because something had to have gone wrong, or there must have been an internal argument that we don't know about between Luka and the management or Luka and Jason Kidd or something of that sort, because there's definitely more behind the story.
Oh, I completely agree, Franco. There has to be more because there's nothing that connects within this entire story. First of all, the Lakers have done this multiple times in history where they've just acquired a player out of the blue, some of the greatest players of all time out of the blue without bidding wars had by other teams. Pau Gasol. This was what happened with the Pau Gasol move. The Memphis Grizzlies traded Pau Gasol for eventually became Marc Gasol to the Los Angeles Lakers, and ultimately the Lakers in that time era, right? In that time period, rather. Oh, got him back. Got him back. We're there we go. There we go. Gotta get the right layout here. Bring the Celtic green in. Gotta take out the Celtic green. But the Lakers acquire yet another face of the franchise without other bidders around the league. And this does just seem like one of those incidents where we're going, Do we have to make up conspiracies for if Adam Silver is running the Lakers or running the Mavericks, or there's some wiring of money to the Mavericks, or there's just this dinner that happens that goes, you know what, you guys need to make this move. We'll cut you here on the back end. We'll fund you in whatever your endeavors are. Go out and make this move so we can fix the ratings, because this is what will partially fix the NBA ratings is a big name star on a big name team who's actually contending. That was the problem with LeBron, and it's the problem with Curry right now. Is those are the two biggest names in the NBA, yet both of their teams are not contending. Well, now Luka Doncic, he's one of the bigger names in the NBA. Well, now he's going to be in the future contending with the Los Angeles Lakers because the roster built around him in Dallas was meant to contend. They did contend for the last 3 seasons. And, well, really the last two out of the last 3 seasons, I should say. The other year, they were the 11th seed in the Western Conference. But Luka Doncic is going to be able to take the Lakers beyond the LeBron era to where they want to go, which is title contention. And for him, he's going to be their star. Nothing makes sense about this deal whatsoever. It's really, you start getting into conspiratorial things like, oh, did Luka Doncic, was there a fight behind the scenes? Is Luka Doncic just the most unpleasant NBA player to be around in the locker room? Does Luka Doncic have allegations against them that we don't know about? Is his calf injury just that terrible? Like something is extremely wrong with Luka Doncic behind the scenes. You start getting into was the league involved? What? Nothing makes sense. A deal like this, I mean, it really is the equivalent to the Boston Celtics going to the New Orleans Pelicans and going, "Hey, give us Brandon Ingram for Jason Tatum right now. Oh, and we'll only take a first round pick in Jose Alvarado." That is just ridiculous. I don't know how we ended up in this situation. The Mavericks, they have an all right team still. Okay, you have an all defensive center in Anthony Davis, a really power forward, I should say. He's going to play the four next to Daniel Gafford. You still have Kyrie Irving there. And I'll mention this: Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis finally pair up after we dreamed of that pairing in Boston after the 2018-19 season. Finally happens with the Dallas Mavericks. But ultimately, these players, they're older, they're injury prone. They're two players in which I do question, do they have the best leadership behind the scenes in order to really reconcile the whole locker room to get them all on the same path at the same time going towards a championship? Now, both these players are more mature. They both have rings as well, but I still think AD, Kyrie, I don't know how well that's gonna look moving into the future, especially with their ages in general. And Luca, it just makes no sense as to why the Mavericks felt the need to knee jerk this and move on right now from Luka Doncic. There's no reason as to why the Mavericks needed to go, you know what, we need to get this deal done before the deadline. If they were really focused on, well, we Luka Doncic, we don't want to sign him to the Supermax extension. And say Luka Doncic was behind the scenes going, look, I'm not signing the Supermax. I'm going to be out of here in a year's time anyway, and I'm going to the Los Angeles Lakers. Trade me there. Even if Luka Doncic was saying all this, or if there was an internal embattlement behind the scenes with the Dallas Mavericks and paying Luka Doncic and committing to Luka Doncic long term, you still, first of all, you take this opportunity at the deadline to field offers. And then if you really don't get the one you don't like, go, we're fine. Move it to the offseason. You're even going to get higher offers in the offseason because teams have more to give out in the offseason. There's more flexibility out there to make a move. Instead, the Dallas Mavericks in the middle of the night go, you know what? We'll take Anthony Davis, we'll take Max Christie, and a 2029 first round pick. And that'll be good for us. That's good for us. We're still contending this season, and you guys can have Luka Doncic, the Lakers. But like I said, to me, the Dallas Mavericks, Luka Doncic made them a contender with his offensive talent, his playmaking talent. You don't have that anymore if you're the Dallas Mavericks. You have Kyrie, you have Anthony Davis there, but you do not have the X factor of Luka Doncic, who is a top 5 player there. Kyrie and Anthony Davis, they're probably top 30 players in this league, but they're not top 5 players in this league anymore. And Luka Doncic, I was talking about it with you the other night, Rob, how I could see the Mavericks and the Nuggets going back and forth winning the West year after year because the two best half-court players in the Western Conference are Nikola Jokic, number one, and number two, Luka Doncic. When the game slows down in the playoffs and you're playing in the half court, those are two of the most valuable players to have. Now, one of those players was just shipped out of the door in the middle of the night with no offers fielded for him to the Los Angeles Lakers. No longer do the Mavericks have that X factor, and now the Lakers have that X factor. And I really do believe the Lakers, this could give them flexibility to go and move LeBron James next. I really do believe that could be a scenario in which we see within the next week, specifically talking about the clutch aspect of Anthony Davis and LeBron James. LeBron James and Luka, that could be an interesting pairing. But like I said, I think there's some redundancy in there. And now I do believe there's flexibility to go move LeBron James elsewhere. And I do believe there's teams out there who look at LeBron James, even at 40 years old, and go, you know what? We're giving everything to the Los Angeles Lakers right now to just get 1-2 years out of LeBron. And that team, again, I still think it's the Golden State Warriors, because the Golden State Warriors are almost in panic mode with Steph Curry, Draymond Green. Their years are running out. Klay Thompson, of course, he's on the Mavericks now. Hey, the Mavericks are ready for a 2019 playoff run with Klay Thompson, Kyrie Irving, and Anthony Davis, guys. But ultimately, I do believe the Warriors could potentially be the team where LeBron James goes, because LeBron James and Steph Curry, I could see Steph Curry working tremendously well off ball with LeBron James. I could see Draymond Green, maybe he's potentially in the deal, we don't know, but I could see him working well with LeBron James. That'd be a really, really old pairing, but a lot of basketball experience, a lot of talent still within that pairing that could potentially happen. And I really do see the Warriors and even the Lakers having a couple of players, particularly the role players, who would work really well next to Luka Doncic. I don't know how well Luka and LeBron James are going to really work together at this point in time, but it really doesn't matter for the Los Angeles Lakers, because like we've been saying, you do this every single time if you're the Los Angeles Lakers, because ultimately the Los Angeles Lakers just landed themselves their face of the future. And we're not even going to be talking about the post LeBron era anymore. The thought was always, oh, Anthony Davis after the post LeBron era, what will it look like? Will he be moved off? Will he be the face? And will he be able to really pair another star next to LeBron James? Well, none of that matters anymore. Anthony Davis is a Dallas Maverick. Luka Doncic is a Los Angeles Laker. And Luka Doncic, doesn't matter who's on the roster right now for the Lakers, they have Luka Doncic in place. I mean, they have their future star in place. And that is just, for a team like this, the Los Angeles Lakers, how historic they are, how big they are within the league. I'm sorry, we got to come out with a whole pod about conspiracy theories surrounding this trade, because this is just, it makes no sense from multiple directions. And of course, the Los Angeles Lakers are involved, and that just seems to be the case throughout NBA history, whether it's Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Pau Gasol, Shaquille O'Neal, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain. I mean, you're hearing all these names. The Los Angeles Lakers always seem to grab the generational guys, and we just saw it yet again last night. Win, folks. Win are the Los Angeles Lakers. Just not going to grab that next name. It doesn't feel like they ever go through a point in history in which they don't have that name. Maybe the Goldilocks period was what, 2016 after Kobe retired to 2019. I'm glad we had those 3 years, guys, without the Los Angeles Lakers honing in on a top 5 superstar.
Right. Well, it could potentially rekindle a Celtics-Lakers rivalry with Tatum heading the Celtics side of things and Luka headlining the Lakers side of things. But definitely some groundbreaking news last night out of ESPN and Shams. Really shook the internet, guys. I'm going to say this before we close off the show. Guys, we are going to be having you covered live for all NBA in trade talk this Thursday, February 6th for the trade deadline special. Guys, will be live all day right here on the YouTube channel. So come in, people are going to be popping in or out. It's my favorite stream of the day. Much more laid back.
Favorite
stream of the year. Not the day, say the day. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, Fox is on the move, so we're going to be talking about everything in a vacuum. However, this one in particular, this one was too big to not discuss on this show, guys. So the Celtics, they're going to be back in action Tuesday at 7:30 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. A really big game coming up, the 1 seed versus the 2 seed. That will be on TNT, guys. However, after the final buzzer sounds, head right back over here to the Celtics Talk Weekly YouTube channel and to join us for CTW Postgame Live, guys. I'm Rob. Next to me is my guy Seamus and Franco, guys. Cue that music, and you know the drill. Until next time.